All right, let's bring him on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Host of Get Your News On with Ron, and also the co-host of Anything Can Happen. Please welcome to the Political Vigilante, Ron Placone, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Graham. What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
Intermittent fasting, huh? Good for you.
Yeah. You're the first person to talk to me about that.
Was I really? I did it for a while, and then I don't know. I just kind of got off of it. I didn't really like it much. But for some people, it really works. And for some people, it's just kind of like, okay.
I've definitely noticed it. Like, I've noticed a little more like cut in my abdomen or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking that too. Like, as soon as you started the show, I was just like, Graham's abdomen is different. I was going to text you. Like, hey, man, your abdomen, it's different. There's more cut in it. That was like you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just like, wait a sec. Does he know there's more cut in that abdomen? Because I feel like I should probably tell him. I don't want to interrupt the show, but I feel like this is. I wish I could super chat him via text to just let him know. Hey, man. Like, you know how back in the day when people had pagers and they would put like 911 when it was important? I could have tried that. Like, 911, you need to know there's more cut in your abdomen, bro. Like, way more. That's got to be the next smoothie you invent. Cut abdomen.
I think this is why I've lost weight, because all I did in Europe was laugh. Like, hanging out with Lee is laugh, and now I'm here laughing with you. That's all we did was laugh and hang out and eat good food. Like, that's all we did.
That's a pretty cool recipe for life, you know. Eat good food and laugh.
I know, it's weird to be in Europe, like a continent of people who are basically, their whole motivation is just quality of life, not money necessarily, not things, not status, just I want to have a good quality of life. I got a job, but as long as I can take time off and vacation and live near a park, and like that's their.
I mean, yeah, like, I mean, we had a long conversation about this yesterday because, you know, I mean, as some people may know already, I was in Italy for a little while, not for touring. I was just there on a family affair, actually. One of my Italian relatives got married. And yeah, you kind of you're just kind of like, wow, there's people who live this way, and it just seems so much better. Why do we do what we do in the United States? And it's not like anywhere's utopia. There's a long list of problems in all countries in Europe. And hell, I was in Italy when they elected a fascist. I was there for election day. So, you know, it's not like they're perfect or anywhere is, but goddamn.
No. And we're gonna talk about later. After we talk about Section 230, I want to talk about some of the Nato protests that are going on, because Europe is going to have a long, cold winter thanks to the United States. So it's not, again, no place is perfect. But man, you know, there's so many parks I walk through in Europe where people are just, not that people don't hang out and enjoy themselves in parks in the United States, but there was just like at night in Paris, everyone's just like down by the river, drinking wine. And like, that's.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's night. That's like, oh, work day's over. You know, like
I noticed too, like, and I know it's like this in like places like Paris and England even, they start work a little later. Like work will typically start at like 10 or something because they want people to go out at night. They're like, yeah, you should be going out at night. So like they have that. And then the other thing that I noticed so much when I was over there is that like when they take a break, you exercise. Like your break is like a break, and you will like, it's not uncommon to just get changed into like workout clothes and go on a long run, you know, like take a quick shower and go back to work, and then you clock out at a reasonable hour. Like we could go on about this for like hours and hours.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was really cool. So thanks for noticing my cut abs. And,
dude, it's important, man. I'm glad you noticed it too. Because I was like, if Graham doesn't notice this, he might have some self-esteem problems. Because I mean, it is clear as crystal, those cut abs. Someone's got to say something.
Oh God, this is so awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, let's. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood. You're watching the Political Vigilante. I'm here with Ron Placone. So let's talk about this this bill that's coming up here that's pressing and what it means. It's in front of the Supreme Court, I believe. So why don't you tell everybody, Ron, exactly what it is and what's important, what people can do to try to affect this.
So there's two really big pressing things going on in the digital rights world right now. And the first one that you mentioned. So the Supreme Court is going to take up two cases. We don't know all of the ins and outs of these cases. It does have to do with a very sensitive topic. It's people using social media to plan violent acts, basically, which a friendly reminder to everybody, inciting violence is not protected speech. Just so everyone knows. Like that's not there's not a free speech thing going on here. Inciting violence is not protected speech. The kind of red flag going on here is, depending on how they rule, this could really blow a hole in what's known as Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Now, Section 230, there's a lot of people who kind of misrepresent what it actually is. What Section 230 is it's basically the piece of policy that preserves free speech online. More recently, people have called it the, quote, social media shield, which isn't entirely false. It is the legislation that shields social media companies from being held liable to what people post. There is some truth there. But Section 230 applies to everything on the internet. It applies to all users. It applies to you. It applies to me. It applies to personal websites. It applies to news articles. It applies to online classifieds. It applies to everything. So to say like, oh, it just applies to social media companies, no, it doesn't. It applies to everything, and it assures free speech online. So gutting Section 230 is not going to solve the problems we have with social media companies. It's going to make it worse. The better solution is to have new policy that meets the moment and is geared specifically towards social media companies without blowing a hole in a policy that's working. I mean, it's kind of like you could take the analogy of free speech. We have this idea of free speech, and it's a good thing. So when we needed to have other types of policies out there to meet the moment, we didn't end free speech. Instead, we had new policy that says, hey, free speech does not include defamation. If you defame somebody, that's against the law. You can't incite violence. That's against the law. That's what we did instead of just ending free speech. It's a similar like metaphor here, kind of, because it's like we shouldn't end 230. Instead, we should say, hey, social media juggernauts like Twitter and Facebook need to follow the free speech laws of the United States, or they need to have more transparency in the way they enact their terms and services. They can't have data collection, which I'm all for, better data privacy. So that's what's at stake here. So if the Supreme Court blows a hole in Section 230, we are all going to be so much more vulnerable online. You're never going to see what the next Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube is going to be, because Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube and Google are going to be juggernauts forever, because this is going to make sure no one can ever compete with them, because they're not going to have Section 230 protections. A small website's not going to be able to withstand a lawsuit. Facebook can. So that's what's at stake here. One thing people can do to start fighting back is you can go to a website called makedmssafe.com, which of course makedmsafe.com, but for ease of the URL, makedmssafe.com. That demands encryption of all of our messages across social media. Facebook shares private messages with police on a regular basis, usually to stop someone from obtaining abortion information in a post-Roe v. Wade society. So this is really important right now, because if they blow a hole in Section 230, all of a sudden, all of these platforms are really going to be on their toes, which means your messages are going to be even more vulnerable than they are now. So one of the ways we can fight back against what could potentially happen, because we're relying on the Supreme Court here. What are the chances that they're going to do something good? Mm-hmm. So makedmsafe.com.
All right, make DM safe, folks. It's something you can do. It's an action you can take, and it's something you can do right now, which is what we have to do. I mean, once again, it's just, it's a combination of just like, outdated legislation, and our leaders, most of them are way too old. They don't even understand this stuff. It's like listening to them talk about crypto.
Right.
And then also just the big tech corporations, I'm sure they've weighed in on how they can get more power and more money and more data collection, and use social media as just another electronic control and propaganda tool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're in a moment where technology has passed up the law, and these, big tech juggernauts are pretty much doing whatever they want. I mean, the way they use your information, the things Amazon is trying to do, like they're going to start surveying inside people's homes because they just bought iRobot, which makes the Roombas. So like it's getting worse and worse as far as like data surveillance and what they're doing with your information to just give to advertisers to make knockoff products of their own thing. And we are in desperate need of some legislation reining this in. However, we have to be careful to make sure it's the right kind of policy and not policy that's going to make things worse.
Which it's so hard because they so want to make things worse.
Exactly. That's the American way, dude. They're just like, hey, we have a problem. We got some shitty policy that could fix this. Let's make this worse with a bad idea.
It's staggering how it's just a bad idea on top of an already horrible idea. Like it's just like
you just described the midterms. That's what everyone. Are you gonna vote for bad idea, bro? I mean, there's bad and staggering bad idea. Which one do you?
What you have to pick one of the bad ideas. You got to pick the lesser of bad ideas. That's the American way. That's the duopoly in function. Well, all right, dude. So tell everybody the website again.
MakeDMSafe.com, which the URL is just MakeDMSSafe.com.
Yeah, MakeDMSSafe.com, everybody. So go check that out. And Ron, what do you got cooking? Where else can people follow what you're doing?
We can go to RonPlacone.com. I do have a couple 2023 tour dates announced already. I'm going to be in Tucson, Arizona, January 28th. And that's not just a stand-up show. That's also a screening of my short film Loner, which has not been screened to the public yet. So that's going to be the debut screening of that short film. Technically, it's a pilot, but I just say short film because that's so much easier to to just say. So you can get tickets for that now at RonPlacone.com. Because it's all the way in January, there's a cool thing going on right now. If you use the promo code Lucy at checkout, you get a discount off your ticket price. So that's an early bird special. It's for a limited time. So go buy tickets now. When you're checking out, use the promo code Lucy and you get a discount. Grab it now while the discount's still up. That's at RonPlacone.com. And I'll also be in San Diego, February 17th and 18th. More information on those shows also at my website, RonPlacone.com.
Right on, folks. I will be in New York City this Tuesday, October 18th at the Broadway Comedy Club, Madison, Wisconsin, October 20th, Detroit, Michigan, October 21st, Cincinnati, Ohio, October 22nd, and Chicago, October 26th. Please come out to one of these shows, folks. I'm working on my new hour, which I'm going to tape at the Chicago show, October 26th. It's my first ever special. And I really wish you could all come out. So go to grahamelwood.com for tickets. I've also got billboards running in these cities. And if you see my billboard ad running anywhere, take a photo of it, tag me, and then I'll DM you in social media a discount coupon for the ticket. So check that out, everybody. And remember, make Gotham great again. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom. All right, Ron, you got time for another hot segment?
Yeah.
All right, let me get this queued up here. Let me get this queued up here. All right. All right. Okay, here we go, folks. All right. We'll start this way real quick. I'll bring you back on. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. We're on the road, folks. I'm in New York City. I have a show in New York City Tuesday, October 18th at 7 o'clock at the Broadway Comedy Club. Go to grahamelwood.com for tickets. I'm in Madison, October 20th, Detroit, October 21st, Cincinnati, October 22nd, and Chicago, October 26th. And in Chicago, I'm taping my first ever comedy special. It's an hour. It's all of my political and comedy stuff together. Talking about how broken the system is, and I'm really proud of this hour. It's taken a while to put together, and I think you'll like it. So go to grahamelwood.com for tickets. We've been talking a lot on this show. We've seen, we're obviously, I'm against Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. I don't like it. I'm against war. But it's not as simple as the corporate Western media points it out, that, oh, America's just this innocent bystander and big bad Putin just went crazy. We've been pushing him into this. I've shown you videos how we push Putin into this. I showed you a video of a bill in 1998 that I think 12 senators opposed because it was an expansion of NATO bill in 1998. And these senators said in 98, moving NATO east is going to antagonize Russia. So we've also talked about how our sanctions against Russia are not hurting Russia. They're hurting Europe. And what is happening now is people are protesting in the streets. I was just on Twitter today, and I saw all of these protests. I want to bring this up for you guys. Just people sending clips of so I'm going to share this on Twitter. So look at this. Protests in Rome to demand an end to Italy's involvement in NATO. This is from Sarah that we followed before. Just watch this.
Noi siamo qua e dobbiamo continuare ad essere qua nelle strade e nelle piazze, perché se un anno fa abbiamo visto quello che abbiamo visto, significa una cosa, che abbiamo spaventato loro, perché bloccavamo il ponto, perché la gente era nelle strade e facevamo paura, perché per un momento abbiamo detto no, noi ci prendiamo quello che è noto, ci prendiamo la strada, la città e facciamo sentire ciò che pensiamo e ciò che vogliamo, e questo fa paura. Ebbene, dobbiamo continuare a fare tutto questo in un momento in cui ci portano addirittura in una minaccia di guerra nucleare, ci vorranno far pagare il gas migliaia di euro. Questi sono criminali, e noi dobbiamo continuare a manifestare e a dire no, noi ci siamo e non accettiamo tutto questo.
That says no guerra, which is no war, no NATO. That's what that's saying. And of course, we're getting this. Gaddafi supplies troops with Viagra to encourage mass rape. So that was from whenever, 2011. Russia is giving soldiers Viagra to rape. So insane. It's so insane, right? But I want to, like, there's more happening here. If you look at this post, and this is all the responses to it, right? Like that. So this is just, people are putting this all over. And then I wanted to show you this. So this is one of the things that we're obviously inciting Russia into. We want Russia to start an atomic holocaust or something. So NATO kicks off nuclear war games on Monday. It's begun its annual military drills in preparation for nuclear war on Monday. American B-52 bombers will be joined by advanced aircraft from other alliance members as they simulate a war of annihilation with Russia. The war games, dubbed Steadfast Noon, are scheduled to run through the end of October. Belgium is hosting the exercise, which will take place over the North Sea and the United Kingdom. Some American aircraft will take off from bases in North Dakota. And this is America. Look at this. According to the NATO press release, Exercise Steadfast Noon involves 14 countries and up to 60 aircraft of various types, including 4th and 5th generation fighter jets, as well as surveillance and tanker aircraft. As in previous years, the US B-52 long-range bomber will take part. I mean, this is just... And this is showing the map here, the approximate area where NATO Exercise Steadfast Noon, which involves up to 60 aircraft, is taking place. This is really, like, how much more provoking are we trying to do here? This is really provoking. And there's protests happening. There's protests happening in Germany because, so I was just in Europe, doing shows with Lee Camp. And I talked to friends in just about in Paris and Berlin, and they were saying, well, Germany, like Paris, France passed a law that you can't have your heater above 19 centigrade, which is about 66 degrees. They're coming into the winter. So imagine if it's 20, 30 degrees outside, it's snowing, and you can only have your house at 66 degrees. That's going to be pretty cold. And that's because our sanctions are only hurting Western Europe. There's been protests in several countries saying we want to get out of NATO. So this is really beginning to backfire. And I wanted to bring on the show a friend of the show and host of Get Your News On with Ron Placone, to give his thoughts on this. Ron, how you doing today?
Good, buddy. How are you? This is well, so when the EU was proposing their solutions for all of this, some of them were some pretty good solutions. They want to invest more in renewables. They want to, start thinking long term as far as energy needs goes. And in the meantime, they're going to kind of, I believe it was Norway, they were going to look to a little more, or it was somewhere like that. But then a lot of their solutions were also, we're not going to dare challenge what's going on. And there's kind of supporting the American line. And, I agree with your assessment 110%. I full-heartedly disagree with what Putin's doing. I'm strongly opposed to it. However, it's not that simple. And the United States is another bad guy in this. I mean, we've been instigating this for 8 years and counting. We're no innocent bystander here by any means. We're an instigator, per usual. And so now they have an energy crisis at their doorstep, and they're kind of just realizing this is ridiculous. We want an end to this conflict, and we want a resolution, because otherwise we're going to literally frickin' freeze. And it's because of our bullshit. It's because of the United States bullshit. And it's just so mind-blowing to see. And I was in Italy during the election where they elected Meloni, who, yes, she is a fascist. I know there were some people on Twitter who were like, maybe she's not. She's a freaking fascist. Okay, she's a fascist. She was part of some Mussolini thing when she was young. She's a transphobe, a homophobe. She has fascist views. And here's the other thing. Some people were saying, well, she's against the establishment, though. No, she isn't. She is the establishment. One of the first things she did was she started going to Zelensky like, we got your back. We're here. She's towing the American line of more, war. She's not going against the EU when it comes to imperialism, because she's an imperialist herself. So this is a problem in the world. And it is encouraging to see that people are fed up about it. And they're kind of seeing it big picture. They're not being fooled by well, we got to keep sending weapons and keep fighting indefinitely because This is all just Russia, and there's not, it's not more complex than that. No, they're saying it is more complex than that. We don't like what Putin's doing either, but this is freaking bullshit, and we're going to freeze. We need to end this conflict immediately.
It speaks to America's just sheer ignorance and arrogance that it thinks a whole continent full of its allies, citizens, being cold through the winter is people are going to just suck it up for Zelensky.
Yeah.
Suck it up to stick it to Putin. They're not sticking anything to Putin. And people are not idiots. Like the Nord Pipeline getting blown up, and they're trying, the American media is trying to blow Russia. Why would Russia blow up its own pipeline? Why would Russia end its own revenue stream? If it really didn't want this pipeline, they would just turn it off. Why would it blow it up? And I think people are just like, come on, this is such nonsense. And America just keeps doubling down on painting itself into a corner, which is just accelerating its ultimate collapse.
Dude, honestly, man, it's like if the world is a fucking high school lunch table, we are the bully, and we are the person that like nobody really likes, but everyone's like too afraid to like turn on and talk shit on. So people are just like, well, all right, we don't want to piss America off. It's like they're such a big bully and stuff. And now finally, it seems like people are like, you know what? Fuck America. Let's just walk away from their damn lunch table. And I feel like that's starting to happen. And let's be real, the entire world, including Americans, will be better off when that happens. We'll all be better off when that happens. And we are not the world's bully. And when people try to scare you with their nonsense propaganda on why we need to be the world's bully, as if every other country is just waiting to pounce, they're just brainwashed by Western propaganda. And here in the United States, if you live on these shores, you'll hear people that fancy themselves intellectuals that'll give you that high sugar bullshit. Like, well, it needs to be this way because and I like my tax bracket. No, you're full of shit, and you're brainwashed by imperialist bullshit. That's what you are.
Well, it's that thing of like the gun owner thinks everyone's trying to break into his place, and it's like, if I give up my gun, I'm going to lose my protection. No, they're not. Those are just kids playing on your front lawn. No one wants to steal your stuff. Every little bump in the night is an intruder where you got to get your gun. Like, that's America's view of the whole world. Like, yeah. China's just going to steamroll over everyone. China just wants to do business with everybody.
Yeah.
Russia just wants to be left alone. Like, what do you like? We're the ones causing all of the problems. Well, what about terrorism? Yeah, we've helped foster terrorism. Shall I walk you through like what has happened since going back to 1953 with Mossadegh in Iran? Like, we helped foster Islamic fundamentalism by putting butchers in power like the Shah of Iran. Like, that's how we've helped this whole thing happen. So we are the problem. And it is amazing. Americans, I don't know, are ever going to wake up because they're so propagandized. But if the rest of the world just turns its back on us, if all these countries start leaving NATO, and believe me, I guarantee you these European countries are going, well, the minute we can walk away from America without America hurting us, we will. I mean, the tide is changing and everybody's just like, we're just waiting. And hopefully America will, its economy will know there's something. They're just like, eventually they're going to just go, nope. And Russia and China, I mean, look at China. We've talked about this before in the show. It's Silk Road Initiative. China isn't sanctioning and bombing the world. They're building ports and stadiums and hospitals. And they're doing it with a clear objective of, we want to bring our products here. We'll build you a whole new port and trains and all this stuff in Africa because we want you to buy our products. And if you don't, we'll just pull our money out. But they're not bombing anybody. They're not sanctioning. They're not ruining people's lives. They're just being like business people.
Exactly. It's like, they're not a charity, but they're not destroying the world either. It's ridiculous, dude. And as far as like your kind of broader question, like when will, the general consensus of America wake up to this? I feel bad putting it this way, but this is like my honest answer. I don't think anyone will wake up to it until it really hits us at home. I don't think, it's like, unless we have the type of winter they might have out in Italy, then people will be like, wait, why is this happening? And it already is, but we're such a big country because, I mean, I bet a lot of people in Jackson, Mississippi have a lot of freaking questions right now. I bet some people in Florida have some questions right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and unfortunately, because we are such a highly propagandized country, they're going to turn to, there's a lot of wrong answers in front of them. There's a lot of wrong answers, you know, with especially something, you know, in Florida. I mean, that's the belly of the beast. I mean, Ron DeSantis is right there, you know, like just telling you it's the immigrant, or it's this, or it's that. It's like, no, we're the empire, dude. We're the freaking empire. We spend all this money at war. We don't spend it at home. We're terrorizing the world. We're pissing off the entire world. You know, we're being isolationist to the gill. And if we weren't, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for geography, more people would be aware of this, because we would actually have people nearby. But because we don't have anything, you know, we have Mexico to the south of us, and they're just kind of like, we just want to have nothing to do with you people. And then we have Canada to the north of us, who is basically like, we want to have a little bit to do with you, but we're really too polite to tell you what assholes you are. And that's all that's near us. You know, like,
yeah. And I sadly, I have to agree with you that I don't have much faith in Americans, because we've been so propagandized. And everybody knows they're being lied to, which is good up to a point, but then it creates this nobody believes anything. Nobody trusts or believe anything. So they're going to go to, like you said, this you know, stockpile of horrible answers and outlets, and people are just going to make crazy decisions. And I don't think Americans, I've always said this, Americans are never going to do anything until their cable gets shut off. You know, like, until the Super Bowl's canceled, Americans aren't going to care about climate change. You know what I mean? When they have to cancel the Super Bowl because of climate change, then people are going to go, oh man, there's no Super Bowl this year, you know, because of the climate change. So, and there's so many just greedy, corrupt people in the management and control of America, with the corporate media and with the political parties, that's just too easy. I mean, look how easily everyone was split and divided. I mean, we've talked about this, even just the little indie left media. We were all fighting the good fight 2.5 years ago, and now it's just a high school, it's a train wreck. And so, yeah, I just don't think most Americans, they might see it, but I just don't see it. I don't see Americans waking up to it. And when it does get really bad and it affects Americans, and it comes knocking on every American's front door because of the economy and climate change together, we're already seeing it, the floods and what happened in Florida, and the drought in the West Coast that happened over the summer, and the fires. People will then grasp some, like you said, a bad answer. They'll just blame some group or some other thing, rather than seeing who's really the problem, which is the 1%, which controls America. And the rest of the world is going to quietly just leave us, just walk away from us. And China and Russia and India are going to line up economically and say, we don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
And so other countries are going to join them. Other countries have had to join us because they didn't have much choice, you know, and now they're going to have a choice. So,
if you're wondering how the United States treats the countries that are loyal to them, ask Australia. Ask Australia how good we've been to them. We're really, in this lunch table analogy, we're a really shitty friend. We're a really, really shitty friend. We're not good. And you know what, Graham? I hope they do cancel the Super Bowl. I really do, because that means they might be able to spare the hockey playoffs. You know, I mean, and I mean, you know, you want to cancel the Super Bowl? That's fine. That's fine. It gets more boring by the year, but canceling the hockey playoffs, what kind of quality of life is that, Graham? You know, I mean,
This is somebody put this in the chat from William Casey, the CIA director. We will know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false.
Wow. Called it. Good job. Good job, Billy C. That's what his friends call him.
Billy C.
That's what his CIA buddies call him. Don't ask me how I know.
Well, I agree. As we wrap this up, I agree. The silver lining is that actually, if people leave NATO and allies start saying no to America, America's just going to have to face that reality, and then we're going to have to just. Americans need to be ready for the fact that we're going to be completely isolated economically. Countries might not want us in there. I mean, look, COVID gave us a little precursor. When we were not handling COVID well, there was countries that didn't want us. The American passport that's supposed to be so valuable, they didn't want us.
A very valuable passport.
And as our economy collapses, and we're just this like typical of a collapsing empire, we're just doing this like death rattle, doubling down on war and invasions, and we're just going to spread our army too thin. That America will just kind of collapse.
It's already happening.
It's already happening.
It's not, I mean, it's happening. It's not like, we're not going to all wake up one day and be like, oh, the collapse happened. It's going to be like a slow freaking boil. And guess what, folks? The water is starting to freaking bubble. And it already bubbled on some people. It's been bubbling in people in Flint, Michigan for a long time now. And it's bubbling in Mississippi right now. And so, it's happening. I mean, it is happening. And the entire world will be better off, including the United States, when we're just another country, when we're not the empire and we're just another country that just tries to, give people a reasonable opportunity and just have the types of services that a frickin' country needs. We have the money to do this many, many, many times over. We choose not to.
Yeah, we choose not to. So we're like any addict, any out of control.
Powers that be choose not to, not you and me, but yeah.
Yeah, the powers that be. The powers that be just refuse to learn. They're just greedy, and they think the party's never going to end, and they're going to have to learn the hard way. And the American people are really going to have to bear the brunt of the ruling elites learning the hard way. And the ruling elites, ultimately, many of them will probably survive this, unless there's just a French Revolution style like purge of the ruling elites. They create all this chaos, and then the regular people have to bear the brunt of it. So,
and they've set up this country so that something like that, I mean, it will be next to impossible for something like that to ever happen here. Yeah. I mean, it's like they did it very strategically through a hyper militarized police force that is set up to serve the elite. I mean, when you look at what our police actually is, it has nothing to do with serving and protecting. It has everything to do with protecting the powerful. That's it. It is that simple. And it's by design. That's why, I mean, they were already like arresting striking workers.
Yeah.
That's already starting to happen because strikes are building. There's momentum around union building, around strikes. That's one of the silver linings here. So they got the police involved. They're arresting striking workers now. I mean, it happened. I forget which state, but there was a report today that they're arresting striking workers at a factory. So, it's we're collapsing, and it's not a matter of if. It's not a matter of if or when, because the when is, well, now it's starting.
It's happening.
The question is not if or when. The question is how. How is it going? How long and just how like what's it going to look like? Because it could be, a reasonably graceful fall from grace, where for the most part people are just able to go on with their lives and they're all better off for it. Or it could get really, really freaking messy. But it's happening no matter what. And we only got so much control over which one of those two is going to be. That's all you can do.
Yeah, the only question is how and how long and how bad. That's bad. Because it is happening. Because, and America, unfortunately, just keeps the big collapse where everybody wakes up. That's not going to happen, because America will just keep putting Band-Aids on its shotgun wounds and limp along, and this collapse will just be this kind of slow. I mean, if you look historically at empires that collapse, it didn't happen in 5 or 10 years. Sometimes it happened over decades. and we're at the tail end of a bunch of decades of corruption and collapse. So, but I doubt we'll see the 50 United States in its current form in the next 10 years, 20 for sure. It could be sooner than that, but I doubt in 10 years from now, we'll see these 50 United States. America will be broken up in some capacity. Which
I think that's possible. I mean, I think that's actually kind of in many ways an optimistic outlook. I think you're right. I mean, I think, I mean, really, when you think about it, I mean, my like more fearful projection is it's just going to be a huge freaking wasteland where you just have, I mean, you basically have a decentralized country, which is basically in a lot of ways what we have now. You know, I mean, in so many ways, I mean, I think part of the reason you don't see like any type of standing up and unity, at least not en masse, is because the United States is so freaking big and there's so many people, you know, they might not notice something out their back door right now. And they might be like, well, I'm fine in the Midwest. It just sucks because you're in California. And it's like, no. What are you going to do when you go to the grocery store and there's nothing there? When you can't get $1 out of your bank? What are you going to do then? This isn't, you know, I mean, this is an empire collapsing. It doesn't matter what your zip code is if you're in the country.
And that Americans don't understand this. They've gotten a little taste of it during COVID, but that's going to be like, you're going to turn on your faucet and water's not going to come out. Or you're going to just have no electricity for 2 weeks. Or electricity is just going to go on and off, rolling blackouts for months.
Yeah, dude.
And that's what it looks like. That's what collapsing countries look like. And we have little tastes of that. Whenever there's a natural disaster, it's really bad. And then we're just going to be, that's going to get worse and worse. We've seen empty shelves during COVID. We've seen like no resources. Like that's going to just keep getting worse. And the problem is Americans keep thinking, well, human beings in general are very adaptable, almost to their own detriment sometimes, because they think it's gotten so bad. It gets down to this level, and then it gets like 3% better, and they go, "Oof, we're back to normal." It's like, no. Normal used to be up here. You've fallen so far, and because there's always these little ups and these little downs, you think it's like here, but it's not. Yeah. It is bad, and
that's how they did Reaganism for 40 freaking years. You know, you just kept accepting a little less because it would get really bad and then mildly better, really bad, mildly better. And then, you know, yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And will be interesting to see what NATO looks like in the next year, if it's still the same number of countries. So, yeah. But Ron, where can people follow you online?
You can follow me at Twitter, at Ron Placone. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram. I'm at Ron Placone on all the socials. Twitter is where I am the most active. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ron Placone, Rockfin Ron Placone. And I got some tour dates coming up, January 28th, Tucson, Arizona. That's a stand-up show and a screening of my short film, Loner. It's only a 12-minute long film, so it's not a very, very long film. You can get tickets at ronplacone.com. And if you use the promo code Lucy at checkout, you get an early bird special and a discount off tickets. So if you're in Tucson, grab tickets now because they're cheaper for a limited time only. Grab them now. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout.
Right on, folks. And I've got 5 shows coming up here at the end of October. So New York City, October 18th, 7 o'clock. Madison, Wisconsin, October 20th, Detroit, Michigan, October 21st, Cincinnati, Ohio, October 22nd, and Chicago, October 26th, where I'm taping my first ever comedy special. Go to grahamelwood.com for tickets. Come out, folks. It's awesome to see people at the live shows, and it's amazing. The live shows are a lot of fun, and we've got great acts opening up for everybody. So come out, go to grahamelwood.com. Ron, thanks for taking your time to be on the show, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, Graham. Be well, buddy. Safe travels.
Later.
Peace.